Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, money and politics reporter, Kyle Mullins. Kyle, thanks for joining me once again.
Always great to be here, Brittany.
Some big news pertaining the former president. Donald Trump owes over $500 million after some legal setbacks. Before we dive into the money section, can you talk about exactly how he ended up here?
Absolutely. So we've got two cases to discuss here, right? The first one is a case that Carroll, a writer, brought against Trump, accusing him of raping her in a dressing room in, I think, the 90s, and accusing him of suing him for sexual abuse and defamation. And a jury did find him. It got tied up in legal proceedings because he was president at the time. But after he was president, a jury did find him liable for those for sexual abuse and for defamation, and awarded her $5 million. He defamed her again, and a jury again found him responsible. And that time awarded her $83 million. So for those keeping track at home, that's $88 million that Donald Trump now owes Carroll, the former writer, or the writer. That's the case number one. The second case is the much bigger one. It's a bigger sum we're talking about. And that's the one we just got a ruling in, something like 2 weeks ago now. That was the fraud case that was brought against him by the New York Attorney General, basically alleging that he and his companies had wildly inflated their profits over the years by wildly inflating his net worth, and in doing so, getting more favorable interest rates on loans, and other sort of selling properties for more than they were worth, that kind of thing. Basically, he ended up they wanted to take back some of that money, and disgorging, as it's called in the legal profession. So that ruling ended up being the judge did find him and his companies responsible for that, and that was over $350 million that Donald Trump is personally responsible for, plus around $100 million in interest. So that's $450 million right there, plus $88 million in the Carroll ruling. We're looking at over $500 million, like you said, about $540 million.
$540 million and counting, because it is increasing each day. So this is a big number for anyone, including a billionaire. But does he owe this all at once? Is this one lump sum? You just write a check, wire some money? What does that look like?
So he doesn't owe it all at once. Everything is the long story short here is everything's tied up in the legal system right now, and he's going to appeal these rulings as far up as he can appeal them. So I know for the fraud case, he does have to either put the money in an escrow account or confirm that he has a bond for the money. But even if he does appeal, and he has filed appeals in both of these cases. I'm not sure if that applies to the Carroll cases or not. I think it does, but regardless, he does have to put up the money in some form, but it doesn't mean it's leaving his control right away.
$540 million, even for a billionaire. This means that he has a cash problem, but paint us a picture here. How bad is that cash problem? Will this financially ruin the former president?
No. The short answer is this is not going to financially ruin the former president. Donald Trump has a lot of assets on hand. First of all, we're estimating he has around $400 million in cash right now, cash and other liquid assets. So he could write a check and theoretically could pay off a lot of these legal bills right away. Thing is, he can't pay off all of them. $400 million is less than $540 million. So he does have to come up with the cash somewhere. And I think it's also worth noting he runs a real estate business, and it's useful to have a pretty decent cash cushion when you're running a real estate business in case something goes wrong. So, this is not going to financially ruin the former president, but he does need to come up with the money somehow.
Let's talk about that, because you did the math for us. Obviously, $400 million liquid isn't going to solve this $540 million problem and counting. So how does he come up with the money here? Paint us a picture.
So Donald Trump has called himself the king of debt, right? And my reporting shows that he has an opportunity to embrace that title once again. He has about $1.1 billion of mortgage-free real estate in his overall portfolio that he could easily borrow against. He could take out a mortgage against Mar-a-Lago. He could take out a mortgage against a variety of different New York real estate. He could take a mortgage out against any of his many golf courses in the United States and around the world. He could borrow that money, take the mortgage money, and use that to reduce the amount he has to dip into his cash pile for, or he could borrow all of it and then put it into the escrow account like he needs to, and there you go. And the second thing he could do is he could actually use some of this real estate, because it's unencumbered, it's a little bit easier to use here, as collateral for a bond if he were to need that as well.
So what you're saying is technically the former president does not have to sell any of his properties to come up with this cash?
Correct, yes. I would be surprised if he went that route.
And he has, as you stated, a $1.1 billion real estate portfolio. Talk to us a little bit more about this. What are some of the properties included there? So
like I said, it's about $1.1 billion. That's out of about, as of Forbes' last estimates, these were done by Dan Alexander, that's out of about $1.75 billion of total real estate assets. But about 1.1 is mortgage free, and the biggest one in there is Mar-a-Lago, which Forbes estimates is worth around $300 million. That's a conservative estimate that Forbes has there. And then additionally, he's got 10 golf courses in the United States that are collectively worth about $260 million. He's got 3 golf courses in Scotland and Ireland that are worth a little less than $100 million. He's got mortgage-free real estate in New York. He's got mortgage-free real estate in Las Vegas, in California. He's got stuff all over the country that he can draw on here.
So he's got stuff all over the map, but there are potential hurdles if he doesn't sell to borrowing against his properties. Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, so I'll note 2 hurdles. The first one is, he has what seems like a bit of an emotional attachment to some of these properties, right? So something like Mar-a-Lago, something like his Trump Tower penthouse, those haven't had debt on them in a long time. I wouldn't be shocked if he was a little hesitant to borrow against those properties. The bigger barrier, though, is definitely going to be one of the other things that the judge ruled in this fraud case, which is that he is barred from taking a loan from any financial institution that is chartered by or registered with the New York Department of Financial Services. New York is the financial capital of the country, probably the financial capital of the world. A lot of banks do business in New York. So if you're a bank and you have a lot of operations in New York, it's going to be more difficult for you to loan to Donald Trump now. That is actually the subject of my reporting right now. That's what I'm looking into. So seeing which of his former lenders he might be able to look at.
Obviously, legally and financially speaking, the former president is facing an uphill battle. $540 million is nothing to sneeze at, but I am curious, are there any workarounds, any loopholes here?
So I definitely think, first things first, he could find a bank that isn't registered by or registered with or chartered by the New York Department of Financial Services. That would be the easiest way out. So if he can find a bank that's willing to loan him the money, he could do that. The second thing he could do is go to a fellow friendly high net worth individual. He's got plenty of rich friends. Some of those friends are also political supporters of his who want to make sure that he's the next president or want to see him as the next president at least. And this could be a way for them to help him out of a financial jam. And then the final thing is, there may be a foreign entity or another, it doesn't just have to be an American bank that isn't in New York. It could be a bank from another country or another financial institution from another country that might be able to help out the once and potentially future president.
As we all are well aware, this comes against the backdrop of the 2024 presidential election, where he is the front runner of the GOP nomination. And just a few days ago, he won pretty handily in the South Carolina primary against Nikki Haley. As we know, that is her home state. So I am curious, politically, is this money, are these legal challenges making an impact?
This is my opinion here, right? I'm not a pundit. I'm not a political analyst, but my reading of things is that these cases against him are pretty baked into the electorate's impression of him already. And as you mentioned, he just won pretty handily in South Carolina against Nikki Haley, her home state, I should add. So that's pretty notable. That said, I do know that polling shows he's got plenty of other legal cases against him, right? And polling shows that if any of these criminal cases against him result in a conviction, that could lead to some of his supporters backing away or switching their support. So there's definitely some risk for him politically in some of the other cases. I don't know whether there's as much risk exists for him here.
Kyle Mullins, per usual, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your reporting. I know we will be talking to you again soon.
Happy to do it, Brittany.